Is your dream to work on your open source project full-time? Do you want to make your open source project into a SaaS platform or project? Well, you need funding for both of these things. In this video, I'm going to share with you 3 great open source funds which are available to you. How do I know this? Well, I applied to these funds and so far have been accepted by 2 of them. I will go through the Apprwrite Open Source Fund, the GitNation Open Source Support Fund, and the GitHub Accelerator Program. Tell you what they are and how you can apply. And if you want to know how to get your project fund ready, then keep watching as I'll share my tips on how I did this too. Apprwrite's Open Source Fund is their way of thanking maintainers who work on open source software. They have set aside $50,000 to share with open source projects in the need of sponsors. Apprwrite know how the challenges faced in building and maintaining open source projects because they were a small open source project too. It is great how they are giving back to the community in this way. You can apply to the Apprwrite Open Source Fund on their website by filling out your name and email, providing a link to your GitHub profile and GitHub repo, and also a description of how the funds will help you. The application will be reviewed within 15 to 30 days, and if you get selected, you'll receive an email to let you know. To qualify, you need to be an independent maintainer, so not a company, and also have a public project on GitHub too. Payment is made either through GitHub sponsors or the Open Collective, so make sure you have one of those set up. The GitNation Foundation contributes to the development of the tech landscape by organizing events focusing on the open source software. It was founded by the OSS enthusiasts, engineers, and community activists, and therefore it understands how some projects need funds for development or tooling. You can apply online at any time of the year by providing your basic personal details, GitHub profile, and the project's repo as well, explaining what your project is about. You will need to give some thoughts and explain why you feel the project will be successful, why funding would help, and also how you would use the funding. You can choose to apply for either a grant of $100, $1,000, or even $10,000. GitHub knows how difficult it can be to balance a job by the day and community work by night. Going full-time means navigating a maze of sponsorships and grants and licensing gray zones and starting a company. The GitHub Accelerator Program is aimed at finding ways in which developers can sustainably work in open source full-time. So it's not just a fund, it's a 10-week program where successful candidates receive $20,000 sponsorship as well as mentorship from open source leaders and enterprise partners on how to grow their project and build a sustainable stream of funding. Applications are through their website and you'll need to provide your personal details, your GitHub profile, and also a link to your repo, as well as a short video introducing yourself. You will also need to explain how you would use the funding. So again, it's important to think about the roadmap for your project. The funding will be paid through GitHub sponsors, so don't forget to make sure you have this set up. Bonus tip: what can you do to increase the chances of getting your project accepted? When applying for an open source fund, as your project will be reviewed by other people, it's important to look at it from a different perspective and through different eyes. You know what it's like. You've been working on your project for months and maybe years. It is difficult to be completely objective. Plus, if you have had an influx of PRs, then the likelihood is that you'll be dealing with those to keep on top of things, which might mean that certain areas have been neglected, even though they are important to you and the project. Here are my tips on how you can make sure your open source project is ready to be viewed by someone else as part of the application for an open source fund. Have a good set of docs. If you were looking at this project for the first time, would you be able to set it up? I would actually recommend you have someone completely independent who has not worked on the project try out your existing README and docs. Ask them to be ruthless. If they cannot set it up or use it and they don't understand the docs, then you need to review them to make sure they can be easily followed and understood. I always say, if someone can't understand or get your project running, there's nothing wrong with them, there's something wrong with your project, and together you can improve this. It is important for contributors and users to know what they need to do. Keep on top of pull requests and issues. This is easier said than done. It is important to keep up with your pull requests and not have too many legacy ones there. It shows that you are continuously working on the project, are on top of things, but also encourages people to contribute if they know their PR issue will be looked at. More importantly, perhaps, it will avoid duplications and conflicts, which can be a pain to resolve. If you can, have other maintainers on the project. On GitHub projects, we have an amazing set of maintainers, and I could not do this without them. Have a roadmap. You will increase your likelihood of getting funding if you show you are committed to your open source project. This does not necessarily mean that you have to quit your job as a sign of commitment. Consistently working on the project is one of the ways to show this. But the other is demonstrating that this is a long-term project, not just something you've decided to do over a weekend. And make sure you don't burn out. Do things little and often. Open source funds will want to see that you have thought through and have a good idea as to where you want to take the project and how you see it evolving over the next few months and years. It's super important to think this through. You are likely to change and improve this roadmap over time. You should be looking at it frequently, make sure that you do think ahead and you are prepared to put it into practice. So make it realistic and achievable. But remember, you cannot make your project completely perfect. It is always changing and evolving. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below on your thoughts on open source projects, sustainability and funding as well. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. We also have a Discord channel where we chat between videos and live streams. I look forward to seeing you there.